Welcome back to Talking Ball. I'm Nicola Hume. I'm your host. We are back here talking all things Oracle Red Bull Racing from the Red Bull Technology Campus here in Milton Keynes. Now, today, we're going to learn about finding and nurturing new F1 talent. So joining us on the show, it's Red Bull Reserve driver Liam Lawson and Head of Driving Academy, it's Rocky. Welcome to the show.
Thanks
How
for
are you doing?
having us. Yeah, very good.
Good?
Good. Yeah, really good.
I mean, I kind of want to set the scene for those that are watching this right now. It's been a bit of a chaotic start because you both arrived. Liam's very sweaty. Then you had to go and get changed. And then you had to go and wash your hands. And then meanwhile, Rocky was like, this is what I have to deal with.
Rocky's been here for like half an hour already,
Yeah.
Rocky, you explained it as like just having to chase around kittens when it comes to the junior drivers and reserve drivers of just being around everywhere.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. Some of it is, to be honest, they've got a really chaotic schedule. They're coming from different countries. They've got to find ways from the airport to get here and stuff like that, which is very difficult. But it's also the fact that they're quite young and might not be as organised as they can be. So they're leaving stuff behind. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, I forgot my helmet.
Yeah.
Should have done this. I haven't been to the loo.
Yeah.
All that stuff. But we're here. We're starting. We're good. So how has your day been so far? Because here we are at the campus. So what have you been doing today?
Simulator, both of us. Different simulators though.
Not together?
Not together.
Okay.
No. So, I've been a simulator. That's basically a lot of what my role is now.
Yeah.
Obviously, as reserve, I don't do so much driving. I don't do any racing. It's actually the first time since I was probably 7 years old that I haven't raced in a championship.
Really?
In a season. Yeah, it's very, very, very strange. So most of my sort of role is development, sort of behind the scenes stuff. So this is, a very normal day.
Is that quite hard to deal with, not actually being out and racing? How do you cope with that?
It's obviously part of it. It's tricky for sure, especially because I've driven. I've come from. I got a sort of very short taste of Formula One last year, and it was incredible. But obviously, then I had to step back into this position, and now basically it's a bit of a waiting game. So. It gives a different perspective. It's definitely, I'm obviously very fortunate to have done it. And it
you
probably
smashed
helps.
it, by the way.
Thank you.
You absolutely smashed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it probably helps my role now as well as reserve, because I sort of know more or less what it's like to drive.
Yeah. I mean, do you kind of feel a bit protective sometimes when it comes to these guys? Because obviously Liam got a taste of it last year and now not driving so much. Do you kind of feel a bit protective?
Yeah, there's some of that. And also, you feel a responsibility whereby, Liam has done everything that's been asked for, and, he's performed extremely well in all the series that's been put into, and you feel, well, you want the next step for him. And therefore, you definitely share the thoughts that he just had in terms of you want him to go further and do more and be competing. We've
had loads of messages that have come in from the Oracle Red Bull Racing fan site, the Paddock. So everyone can send in a message to ask you guys. So here we go. This is from Mandy in the Netherlands, who says, would you rather have a home GP win or a Monaco win?
Home GP. I mean, I don't have a home GP.
I mean, we need a home GP for you, right?
New Zealand Grand Prix. I mean, I got to try and get to Formula One first, but then, we need a New Zealand Grand Prix. I think it'd be tough. Our tracks are not quite to FIA standard, I would say, to what Formula One race on. But they're really, really fun. So maybe one day we can get a New Zealand Grand Prix. I mean,
what's like the racing scene like out there?
It's big. It's very, very big, honestly. Yeah, motorsport's very big in New Zealand. We have a lot of tracks as well. We have like 7 or 8 tracks over the country, like sort of big, proper tracks that you can race cars on. Yeah, it's big. Motorsport's definitely big.
Yeah, but obviously, I mean, you don't live there anymore. Do you live in Milton Keynes now?
I did. Up until a couple of months ago, I lived here for 4.5 years.
Okay.
And I just recently moved, but still in the UK, just to London.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah. So when you were in Milton Keynes, did you have to like bunk up with some other junior drivers?
I lived in the same building as Yuki.
Okay.
Yeah, so we lived in the same building for a couple of years. And then he went off to Italy when he made F1. And then I was just a bit of a loner for a while.
Yeah.
So honestly, when he was here, I don't know if it was good or bad for us, but we did a lot of cool stuff. So
nice. This is from Marina in Argentina, who says, Liam, do you have to go to every race? And if not, how do you as a team decide which races you will go to?
I go to every single race.
Right, yeah, I thought so. You have to be there as backup just in case.
Yeah, exactly. So it's although some races I'll fly, I'll actually do simulator the week leading up to the race, and I'll drive the simulator also on Friday. And then I'll fly out Saturday morning. So normally Saturdays, especially on the European races, when it's possible that I can make it to the track before practice 3, I'll basically have like the 6 a.m. flight out of Heathrow.
Do you sleep?
Yeah, Saturday's not a fun day to be honest.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, I go to every race.
This is from Baz in the Netherlands, who says, your performance last year standing in for Daniel was very impressive. How do you stay so cool to ensure that you are ready to step in at any minute?
Make the most of these days, like simulator days, because to be honest, it's the closest thing to obviously driving the car. The simulators now, the teams completely rely on them to develop. We can't go and test the current car. So the fact that I get to do the development work is a good opportunity for me, although it's not driving the real car. So yeah, making the most of these days. And then when I'm at the track, basically trying to absorb as much info and the details that I can. I have a lot of access, which is cool. Obviously I'm basically there at all the races. I have a headset on, I listen to everything. And it gives a lot more of an insight to when you're driving, I'll only ever hear, if Rocky's my engineer, I'll only ever hear what he tells me. Which will be quite limited information because obviously you're driving, you're quite busy. But in the background, there's so much information being relayed between Rocky and the rest of the engineers, even back in the UK. So it's interesting. As reserve, I get to listen to all of it basically, and I get an insight into what I wouldn't normally get to. Because I'd say there's a lot of drivers that would have never heard that sort of side of what goes on in the background.
So when you did your first race last year, it was the Dutch Grand Prix that you did first.
Yeah.
Were you in his ear?
No. As in if he was.
Oh, okay.
As a race engineer.
Right, okay, fair enough.
That would be dream
would you
scenario.
rather him
I
be
would
in
love to, because when I was a kid, I grew up listening to his voice on talking to Seb. So, I remember the first time I met Rocky. And, like when you hear somebody's voice for many, many years and you imagine what they look like, and they never look like what you imagine.
What were you imagining? Come on, you have to tell us.
I don't know, yeah.
What were you picturing?
I can't even remember. I just remember being like, that's not exactly how I imagined. It never is though, so.
Okay, fine. This is from Talia in Mexico, who says, what's your relationship with Max and Checo like? Do they give you advice? Anything like that?
Actually, Max has always been, Max is a guy that like just loves racing in general. So away from Formula One, he watches a lot of motorsport, like a lot of other categories. So when I was racing in Super Formula last year, I'd fly from Japan, wherever I was racing, and I'd go to one of the Formula One races, and he would have been watching sometimes the races, when I was racing. So he'll ask me about them, which I thought was really, really cool. And when I drove last year, obviously I drove in Zandvoort, and the energy station where the driver rooms are, you basically both Red Bull and VCARB, they share sort of the same area. So my room was next to his, and before the race he came in and he was really nice. He offered basically plenty of advice on basically reminding me to enjoy it and make the most of it. So which I thought was cool.
That's really lovely to hear. I love that. This is a question for you, Rocky. So finding talent is tricky. So let's set a scene. This is from Aisley in Australia, who says, if you were confronted with 10 drivers, but they're strangers, we walked 10 drivers into the room, would you be able to tell just by looking at them which one would have the most potential?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that answer.
And you'd probably be surprised, so would you.
Really?
Yep.
How? Teach me how.
Because, and it's, it's not just my gut feel or my belief. It's something we've done before, and I've got examples to back it up, whereby it doesn't matter what setting we're in, whether we're doing a sim session, a test of the track, where you're talking to a physio, you're talking to an ex-driver or whatever, for whatever reason, there is something that I cannot quite describe to you, but you will recognize, where there is something about that person where you think he's 1 out of 10, is not just like the others. So obviously there is a bit of filtering at the start, like, when there will be 10 drivers walking in the room, it's not just people picked off the street, if you want. They will have a background, they'll have a basic level of talent.
Yeah.
So I would not be able to tell you whether they're actually very good in high-speed corners or low-speed corners. But in terms, if you assume that they're all there or thereabouts in terms of their abilities and experience, through the conversation that you have with them, talking about what they have for lunch like you have today or what you're going to do tomorrow, you will be able to see, regardless of what your background is and your knowledge, you'll be able to spot the drive, the spirit to get better every day, to ask the right questions, to be focused on nothing but motor racing. And yeah, many a time I've set up, for instance, meeting with the current academy drivers, with experienced F1 drivers like Sebastian Buemi, who's was very good in terms of supporting the program. And they would go for dinner, have a chat, and then I'll catch up with Sebastian the next day and he will say, that guy over there who's from, I don't know, who's from your question is from?
Australia, Ainsley in Australia,
right.
yeah.
That driver's come from Australia. There's something about him. And then I know, because I know the results, I've done the sim work and stuff like that, and I know that, this guy from Australia is probably a bit special. So the answer is yes.
That's amazing. Does that make you feel more special?
Well, I don't know, because we're not talking about me.
Well, I mean, somewhere along the line it would have been seen in you.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
the
very
thing.
curious.
And he was already selected when I started in Morel.
Right, okay.
Select me. Yeah.
No, but it applies to Liam, obviously.
Okay, fair enough. So this is from Jan Aslak from Norway, who says, what is the spice that makes one driver succeed and another fail? I don't think it's cumin. It's just what is
spice?
The...
Yeah.
It's pretty much tells in the previous question.
Yeah.
It's the rage to master in a few words. Basically, it's not just the desire to do better. So there's that willingness to do better and do better the next day that you were the day before.
Yeah.
But it's not just that willingness. It's really the rage and desperation, as in nothing else matter. You just want to be that better driver and you want to beat the other guys, and you look at all the details to be able to put all the advantages on your side. That's the spice.
So what is it that made you move from race engineer to where you are now?
It's a combination of factors. I've been at Red Bull now for 20 years, quite a while. And yeah, as a race engineer for that duration, maybe the last 18 years, I just wanted something a bit different, a bit new, mostly to rekindle the interest in the sport.
Yeah.
There was also a bit of an aspect of, it's a bit contentious, but 24 races is a lot. And if you are doing all these 24 races, you do end up a bit just cranking the handle, going from the one event to the next, and not really standing back and thinking about medium to long term, how you going to do things better, how you can analyze what you're doing. So it's after a while, I can totally see why people are keen to do it when they're young, but after doing it for 20 or 30 years, it becomes a bit more difficult. So I wanted to back off a bit in terms of how many races I go to, but also try to rekindle the interest I had in motor racing that I had like 30 years ago, and working with young drivers are coming through and want it, really badly, more than ever. Stuff like remind you why motor racing is so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a combination of all these factors really.
So did you get that feeling back now?
Yeah,
where you
100%.
are?
Yeah. No, it's really good.
I love that.
Because you get really blasé about it. Like I said, because you're cranking the handle, you're going from seeing the same people from one airport to the next.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, this is pretty dull. It's just a 9-to-5 job. But it is a 9-to-5 job. When you get somebody who just jumps in and goes into the paddock for the first time and meet people that was looking up on TV, you think, yeah, actually what we do is pretty cool.
We've seen interviews with Seb Vettel, who has described you as a natural mentor. His actual words, a natural mentor. Because there's something about what you do, apparently. So I have heard, please tell me this is right, I have heard that you give the junior drivers written work to do sometimes, a bit like it's a school.
Liam, do I give the young drivers homework to do?
Yes.
Do you get homework?
Rocky does, yeah.
What do you have to
I
do?
haven't actually, not, well, technically I'm not a junior anymore, right? No, I'm not, technically.
That's fine. Okay, let me rephrase this. Liam, have you ever done your homework?
I have done, yes, I have
you?
done, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. No, I 100% have.
Yeah. Isn't there a question later whether we argue or not?
Actually, there is. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Not all of it,
Yeah.
but of course I've done it.
Okay.
What was the homework?
It's
What
like,
do you have to do?
It's good.
Do you have to like write lines on DRS or something?
It's more engineering than anything. So basically us, because as drivers coming up, we basically spend a lot of time talking about what the car feels like and how to make it go faster and things like that. But normally we honestly have the most basic understanding of how the car actually works and what things do. So basically Rocky would give us questions and ask us to basically research about what specific parts on the car actually do. How they work on the car and things like that. So that's the kind of homework, so that we can have a better understanding.
Okay. So you do that homework, hand it into Rocky.
I did do the homework.
And then do you mark it?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Now that I remember, actually, there was a Liam Lawson specific question.
Right.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Because Liam is right. The core of it is mostly technical, but a lot of it is just basic, rules of how you look after yourself, sleep, nutrition, things like that. And there was a question about nutrition, because what's your favorite drink? The favorite hot drink that you have? What do you have?
Coffee?
Yeah.
Oh, the oat milk thing.
Yeah.
That's right.
So Liam likes to order something a bit specific when he has a hot drink, which is oat milk, something or other.
Flat white.
Yeah.
Oat milk flat white.
It's pretty basic. It's not that extreme.
That's true.
But Rocky looks at me like I'm ordering something.
It could have been some
foreign.
sort of frappuccino, mocha.
That is true.
Chocolate.
Yeah. But the point was, why do you order oat milk? And because oat milk is like so much better than anything else. And the question was, okay, what's the nutritional value of oat milk compared to regular milk?
As it turns out, it's not as good as I thought it was. I was drinking it because I thought it was really, really good for you.
Okay.
And Rocky pointed out that it wasn't. Well, he actually made me find out myself that it wasn't. But yeah.
So now what do you drink?
Oat milk.
Good. I'm pleased that you learned something.
Less of it.
You do like a sad face, see me after class.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, was he a good student though overall?
It was okay. Yeah.
Okay, now I genuinely need to ask, have you ever really fallen out with each other?
No. No. Not like
disagreements.
Yeah, sure.
There's always debates.
He's got questionable, taste in colours and particularly in cars. So
he does like cars.
That needs to be pointed out to him.
Yeah, you are a car nut a little bit, but you like to modify things, don't you?
Yeah, more into modifying cars. But it's like there's different ways
the
you can do
judgment.
it. I know he's so judgy of my taste in cars.
My question is, if you're going to spend so much money making a bad car good, why not you just spend that money buying a good car in the first place?
Because it's making a good car better. It's not making a bad car good. The car's good out of the box, but the car's exactly the same as every other person that has that car. If you have a standard car, everybody else who has that car, you have the same car as them. There's nothing unique about that. Whereas when you modify it, there's so many options you can do that basically, like my car specifically, is the only one that's like that. It's one of a kind, which makes it...
And we're all grateful for it, I'd like to say.
It gets attention, to be fair. Here, it does.
Why?
Because probably not as many people are into modifying cars that work at
But
rebel racing,
what have you done to it to make it that dramatic?
Just a lot of stuff. The way it looks, the way it sounds.
Because I do know that your hero is like Lightning McQueen.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is that what got you into racing?
Well, when I was a kid, I watched the movie. It's not what got me into it. It was part of... honestly, it was part of what gave me like the passion.
Really?
About it. Yeah, I watched the movie like probably every second or third day as a kid, and that's no word of a lie. Like I watched it when I was young, like
I didn't say anything.
But you're like looking at me. I feel like I can feel the eyes judging me.
Well, and there's no judgment here. He was judging your cars,
There's
not your
always
taste in
judgment
films. Yeah, so it's fine.
No, when I was young, I watched it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I still watch it. You've seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good film.
It's a good film.
Yeah, it is a good film. But your parents did a lot to get you to where you are today, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like you've got such a supportive family behind you.
Yeah, very, very lucky.
Are they still over in New Zealand or are they over here in the UK? Is that quite tough being far apart from them?
It is, and especially in the early years, like moving away.
Yeah.
I left, I didn't finish high school or anything, so I left when I was 15.
That's why he's setting you homework.
Yeah, exactly. I'm playing catch up, basically. But that was like the first part. Not honestly, I was just excited to be able to go and chase my dream. And there's always hard parts about it, but it was never there was never a question of whether it was too difficult and I want to go home. But yeah, my whole family really gave a lot, especially in the early years through go-karts. My parents sold their house so that I could keep racing, and they did a lot. So,
that's huge.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
It's absolutely massive. They gave absolutely everything for me to be able to race, even just go-karts, because it's so expensive.
Yeah, that's amazing. And now here you are, everything all seems to be paying off.
Nearly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting close.
Getting close, yeah. But I mean, so when it comes to finding talent, do you tend to sort of really keep an eye on F2, F3? Is that where you normally look?
No, we look much younger than this. So basically the age at which the program starts is when drivers are legally allowed to drive Formula cars, which is 15 years old for Formula 4s. So we try to get drivers within the academy when they're about to step into cars in Formula 4. So probably 13 years old is when we start to look at.
That's very young.
Yes, but it's like any other academy, like be football or others, because scouting talent is very, very important. Then you get younger and younger, because anybody who's doing well in Formula 3 and Formula 2 is being watched by the world. So everybody knows who's good, and therefore they're being signed up by Formula 1 teams or others. So you need to try to get closer to the source almost. And where we are at the moment is roughly that age of 13 years old, yeah.
I mean, it seems to do the trick, doesn't it? I mean, the junior drivers that have come through Red Bull have just had so much success. Like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I mean, obviously Max Verstappen, Seb, Danny Rick, yourself. It seems to be a skill to pick the right people. But is it picking the right people or just giving them the right training? Or both?
It's a bit of both. It's been mostly picking the right people, for which, Helmut Marko needs to take all the credit for. I've only been part of the program for the last 2 years, and really my remit is very much to make the most of the talent that we've been provided with. So it's all the education process. It's like the second part of the session, the question you were talking about.
Yeah.
But really identifying talent is where the skill is.
Yeah.
And then making the most of it is where I come in, making sure they don't fall off.
So how would it work then? Would it be, there'd be a karting race or something like that, and someone will go, actually, I've just heard that this kid's pretty good. So then maybe you would go out and have a little look, or Helmut would go out and have a little look, or you'd have to send out some secret people so no one knows what's going on?
Yeah, a combination of all of this.
Yeah.
And also what we do is that our simulator program, I think, is quite strong in that respect, in terms of having metrics that are relevant to the racetrack, and also having a very, very long experience of many people coming through those doors. So we've got data from drivers who raced here 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So, Carlos Sainz is a 13 or 14-year-old. We've got the data.
Yeah.
And because simulator, which is a control and constant environment, tomorrow a 13-year-old can come in and compare himself to Carlos Sainz in exactly the same car.
Oh, yeah.
And therefore we can say, okay, at your age, this is how you compare to a 13-year-old future Formula 1 star.
Yeah.
And therefore we can say, okay, you're there, the margin progression is this and that. So, to answer your question, all of the above, basically.
So is the training then pretty hardcore as soon as you're then signed on to the program?
No, I would say it's more a question of continuous supply of information and training in terms of little by little adding the layers to help you grow and go to the next stage. What we do, like I was doing today, which is like a regular day in the academy, is we have Formula 3 or Formula 2 drivers coming in for simulator training to prepare them for the next event. So that one day is fairly busy, but otherwise it's not as if it's not comparable to football academies where, the drilling is there on a daily basis. It's more regular meetings to catch up and trying to improve, set new targets, measure progress, things like that.
Yeah. Are you friends with like the other reserve drivers? You have like a super sub team?
Like reserve drivers for other teams in Formula 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say...
Because you're all kind of, I guess, on the same schedule, aren't you?
Well, I raced against a couple of them over the years.
Yeah.
So like Jack Doohan, Frederick Vesti, those guys I raced against through F2. So, for sure. But honestly, we... Like at the track, it's so busy that you don't really see... You don't really see other people from other teams that much. You're basically just completely focused on what you're doing. You basically go from when the session's happening, after that straight to the debrief room. You sit through debriefs, you talk about loads of things. You go, maybe you have some lunch, but then you go straight back to the briefing room, and it's a very sort of busy schedule that honestly I don't really see them too often unless I'm walking by. That's the only time.
I mean, it sounds busy, but I have been asked to ask you, how's the unofficial race weekend table tennis league going between you, Yuki, and Daniel Ricciardo? So you got time for table tennis?
Yeah, a little bit. But because we use it as part of the warm-up. So that goes into the time that we set for warming
of course.
up.
No, yes.
Obviously, I've got plenty of warm-up time. So, it's okay. To be honest, it's kind of laid off the last couple of races. It was quite big at the start of the year. But it's kind of stopped.
Yeah,
it's
just need to
now.
find the time.
Yeah, it's too busy. Is the problem,
of course. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I've got to ask, when you win your first Formula One race, how are you celebrating? Not if, it's when. I have no idea. That's something that's I've only ever dreamt about winning. I've never really thought about what I do after. It's only ever been about obviously trying to achieve that goal. So I'd probably call my parents, honestly. Hopefully they'd be there, but it'd be something like that. That's it's difficult to answer. Maybe, I don't know, pick up your guitar, write a song, release an album, something like that. Yeah, I hear you play guitar and you sing, so I had to bring. That was my way of bringing it up.
How do you know that?
I know a lot of things about you. I've been stalking you for a long time.
There is nothing out though that can, like, I've never said recently, hey, I play music. How can that be?
No idea.
Where did you get the information from?
I think you did a Mindset Win podcast, which is another Red Bull podcast. You said that you play guitar and you sing.
What an idiot! Why did I say that? Yeah, I do. Since I was young, I played guitar.
Okay.
Played music.
You any good?
I actually recently Red Bull has really, really cool headquarters all around like different countries. Something that I've learned while being with the brand. In New Zealand, we have a headquarters that has a recording studio. So I actually recorded at the start of the year. I haven't released anything, but I haven't put it out, but I did record. So.
And what's the name of the album going to be?
No, it's not an album. I just recorded a couple of songs.
Okay, what are they called? And how do we download them?
They're covers, so they're not out yet. So I can't. I probably will share them at some point, but it's a bit busy at the moment.
All right, so we've got a few more questions that have come in from listeners. This is from Joseph in the USA, who says, Liam, what was your reaction when you found out that Red Bull wanted to sign you to their junior program? And Rocky, what was it that made you decide that Liam deserved a shot? Although I think we've already discussed because you weren't quite to do with the decision.
So I was, funnily enough, I was actually racing in New Zealand when I got signed. So we have this series. It used to be really, really popular. A lot of F1 guys have been there. So Lando raced in it. Lance Stroll raced in it. A couple of guys in F1 raced in it. It's called the Toyota Racing Series.
Yeah.
And it used to run 5 weeks over January in New Zealand in summertime, whereas everywhere in Europe and the US would be a lot colder, so there'd be no racing. So you used to get like drivers from all over different championships, really high level. So as a kid, being into Formula One, I would watch the series every single year, and I like dreamed of driving it. And to me, it was like the Formula One of racing at the time. And I finally got to compete in this series after doing my first year in Europe. And it was after the first weekend that basically I had a really strong first weekend. There was a Red Bull driver racing in it at the time. Lucas Auer, Lugie, he was racing. He was my teammate. So I guess Helmut was watching because of Lucas racing. And I had a really good first weekend, and I never thought anything like that would happen. But I did for a long time, like being a Red Bull junior was something that I remember having the year before. I raced in F4 in Europe, and Jack Doohan was a Red Bull junior at the time. And we tested together somewhere, it might have been Hockenheim in Germany. And I remember seeing him walking around in his Red Bull like suit, and I remember thinking that was so cool, and how cool it would be to be a Red Bull junior. And I got the call up after that first weekend in New Zealand. I found out 1 or 2 days after the weekend. I was sitting at a cafe. I remember exactly where I was sitting, and I remember I couldn't walk. It was real strange. I remember I got told, and I was like, I was obviously it was pretty emotional, but I remember I was like, oh, dude, I got to go for a walk. And I couldn't really walk properly. It was super weird. But big achievement because long story short, like being from New Zealand, trying to compete overseas, it's really, really hard. To get the money to compete overseas is really, really hard. So we set up in New Zealand between a group of amazing people that have been behind me, sponsors and investors. We set up this structure to basically get enough money to go to Europe and do a season and try and get recognized by a junior team, because without it, we would never, there was no chance of getting a Formula One. And I did that first season in Europe and I had a good season, but I didn't have any call-ups from any teams. And then I just did this championship in New Zealand over the off season and with no plan of what I was doing in 2019. And I got basically picked up like at the perfect time and it saved my career.
Wow. Well, it happened when it was meant to happen.
Yeah, I, without it, because I had that, 4 weeks left of that championship and then I had no plan after that.
This is from Anna in the USA, who says, once a young driver is accepted into the academy, to what extent do you personally oversee their development? So do you oversee their diet, their physical training, media training? To what extent are they managed and what is left up to them to work on?
Okay, that's a really good question, because I think it's at the core of how we do things here, if you want. And I think it goes back in a way to some of the other discussions we're having about in terms of wanting to be a better driver all the time. We think it's a very strong quality, and that's a quality we want to nurture. So it's really, really important that it comes from the driver. So we're there to educate them, to present possibilities and solutions, but we're not there to spoon feed them. Okay, there are things that they don't know.
Yeah.
And, unless somebody tells you, you don't know what's the better way of doing things or what's out there to help you. So we're there to present it, but that's as far as it goes. So we do say, yes, you need to have a proper physio program. That's a good example in terms of how we support drivers, is that at the beginning of the year, we'll do a physical assessment of the driver based on the database that we have, where they're racing and where they want to be in 2 years' time. And we say, right, this is where you are in terms of VO2 max, in terms of neck strength, in terms of whatever.
Yeah. This
is not good enough. This is where you need to be in 6 months' time. That's it. That's as far as it goes.
And that's it. Go do it.
Yeah. So, of course, it's not that bad. If the driver comes around and says, well, I don't know, I haven't got a physio, then we'll make some recommendations. We might give them names. We might give them a training program. But ultimately, we're not there to say, right, do 10 press-ups, do it again, stuff like that. So on everything we do, whether it's that nutrition, technical support or whatever, we say these are the range of things that we can offer. These are the recommendations that we're making.
Yeah.
You make the choices. Ultimately, you be judged whether you get the targets or not. How you do it is on you.
Yeah.
Because we don't really want either. I think every person is different. You don't really want to put them in a regimen whereby they're all in the same place and they all get up at the same time and they all, it doesn't fit the Red Bull, credo of, we want individuals, basically. So we don't want to be overprotective, but we do provide a framework, effectively.
This is from Roxanne in the Philippines, who says, how crucial is simulator work in driver training and how realistic are the simulators? Because obviously we speak about your fitness and things, but your fitness side of things doesn't really come into play with simulators. But in terms of your driving skill, that comes from simulators. So I guess it's an extremely important thing.
Yeah, it's it's more so honestly the car development. Like we basically, the teams, you rely completely on the simulators. You have to trust that basically, because there's a full team of people that works full time on basically making that simulator as accurate as possible every single week. And it's always, to be honest, it's always changing every time I come in. We're testing new things, not just on the car, but on the simulator to make it better. So, and make it more accurate, because we can't go out and test the current car. You can't go out in the current cars and just test and basically try and make the car better. You have to do it all in the simulator. So, it's extremely important. It's basically the sole part of obviously that, and like online simulations and things like that. But that's really where the car gets developed. And then obviously for us, it's great because we get to basically drive. And the better the simulator is, also the better you're going to be when you drive the car. And I had, as an example, my first test with Red Bull Racing was the free practice session in Abu Dhabi a couple of years ago in 2022. And I drove Max's car, and I'd done quite a lot of simulator work before Abu Dhabi. And it was the first time in my life that I'd gone from the sim and got in the car, and it felt, really, really similar because we drove the same setups the week before. And honestly, within 1 or 2 laps, I actually felt completely comfortable in the car, and it was the first time I'd driven it. So, and that was completely from the simulator. Yeah.
See, because from the outside looking in, you would just assume if you're going to go and do an FP1 session that maybe you've already gone out in that car and done a couple of laps at a different track somewhere else behind the scenes kind of thing. But no, that's the first time you do it.
Zero, absolutely zero. So
that's bonkers.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's why it's also, there's like so much pressure on that moment because you really have never driven the car.
Yeah.
So, but the simulators are super, super important. They're like top secret. As a junior, my first couple of years as a junior, I asked plenty of times to see the Formula Ones. I was like, just see it. Just I don't have to drive it, just show me. And they would never show me. The first time I saw it was the first day I drove it, basically.
Wow. Yeah. See, even just doing this podcast, no one showed me anything. I've asked.
I know.
I've asked to have a go. No one's let me have a go.
I've been through it. I know. It's tough.
One day. I'm hoping it will happen one day. So this is from Luke in the UK. He says, Rocky, what is the most difficult part of your job? Is it finding the talent, keeping it, or something else?
I think the hardest part of the job is staying objective and recognizing when it's not working. When you have to have that really difficult conversation of, you know what, we believe in you. We've done all the hard work. You've done all the hard work. You were there on time. You were doing all the graft, but there's something missing. And we've worked on it for the last 2 years and it's not getting any better. Yeah. And this is pretty much it. And that's still difficult. Obviously, it's difficult for the driver who has to listen to this, but it's difficult for me because in a way you feel you failed somewhere. Yeah. Because I do believe that, okay, talent is important, but talent only gets you so far. It's hard work that gets you over the line. And if the hard work has been put in, but it is proven not to be enough, then it's pretty tough.
Do you think there could ever be a situation where that doesn't quite work out, but then actually they would go off and work on themselves even more and come back and then maybe? Or it's just a flat out no?
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
I think because sometimes the reason why it hasn't worked out is maybe because the hard work wasn't there in the first place.
Yeah.
Is that, we've tried and we've said these other things that you need to do and you haven't done them and there's no progress being shown. And maybe it's, it's the kick in the butt that some people might need and and then you have to recognize that, okay, it didn't work for us, but hopefully it'll work in a different environment.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. I know you've still got some busy things to do for the rest of the day and then you're off to a race this weekend. So you're very, very busy. I can't wait to see you on the grid again. I loved watching you last year and I can't wait to see you on the grid again because I know that when it does happen, you're going to be marvellous.
Thank you so much.
When you win your next race, if you want to dedicate that win to me, that's fine. I'll let that happen. It's not a problem. You need to go back on the sim and go and help out because you've got a junior driver on the sim right now.
Correct.
And you've just left them to it.
Yes.
Well, you just trusted them on their own.
No.
Is that all right? Oh, is there someone actually?
There's always going to be,
Can you not do it on your own?
No.
Oh, you're not allowed?
It's not a question of being allowed. It's like an F1 car whereby, okay, an F1 car these days is not the same, but most F1 cars back in the day, you couldn't even start them when you were sitting in the car. So you need to have a team of engineers behind that just sets it up and fires it up for you. It's exactly the same for a simulator.
Oh, see, I had in my head that if you're doing like a big sim session, that you might just be sat there for 4 hours, I don't know, on your own without an engineer with you. But no, you have to.
Yeah, at least a couple of people will be in there normally with you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Literally to fire it up, if anything.
So who is that more tiring for?
I don't know. It's quite difficult for a driver in terms of the focus, and because it's not like driving a real car. So, I mean, you're probably pretty rinsed after the end of the day on a simulator.
Yeah.
The thing that makes it really straining is the like you're always doing these incremental changes to the car, and as a driver, our job is to feedback what that is doing, what it feels like, and you're always trying to think about you're not just driving, you're also trying to feel every little thing that the car is doing and trying to feel the difference from the previous run and give accurate feedback because our feedback basically helps, is a big part of where they go in the direction of developing the car.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to, and when you don't quite feel something and you're like, oh my God, what is this doing? And you have to think like really, really hard about everything you're doing.
It's quite intense.
Yeah, it rinses you, yeah.
Yeah. So you must be exhausted because you've had a day of that today, have you?
It's, part of it. But yeah. little bit tired.
It's fine. You've done. We've got a Red Bull here if you want to drink it.
I'll be taking that with me, yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me here on Talking Ball. And Talking Ball will be back here very, very soon. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen and give us a rating and likes and things, because it's good for the algorithm. Thanks. See you next time.